Welcome to the world's fastest short track with the NTT IndyCar Series and the first half of a weekend doubleheader. It's the HighVDeals.com 250 from Iowa Speedway. Kevin Lee, James Hinchcliffe, Townsend Bell, and Townsend, this is not your typical race weekend.
Not at all. We have 4 concerts, some of the biggest names in music. Tens of thousands of fans have turned out, but on the racetrack, it is double points, a doubleheader race weekend, as many points on offer as the Indy 500.
And this is a really difficult racetrack as well. It's one of the most physical on the schedule on a good day, adding the fact that temperatures are in the high 90s. And guys, we have to do it 2 times. So mentally and physically, I think this is going to be one of the most challenging race weekends of the calendar for all of these drivers.
The party has already started. An Indy Lights race earlier today. Tim McGraw has played Florida-Georgia line after the race. Tomorrow, it's Gwen Stefani and Blake Shelton. But it's about time to fire up the Indy cars in Iowa.
Hy-Vee IndyCar Race Weekend fans, are you ready? Here to give the command for the HighVDeals.com 250 presented by DoorDash. Please welcome Iowa Hawkeyes women's basketball point guard and Big Ten Player of the Year, Caitlin Clark.
Drivers, start your engines!
Welcome everyone to Iowa Speedway, just east of Des Moines in the heart of open wheel racing. We are ready to go today. Hy-Vee has thrown a huge party, but Townsend, the championship is still very much in focus.
Very much in focus. In fact, it's tightening up as we come down the stretch. This is the race to the championship all season, starting in St. Pete. McLaughlin, Newgarden, Team Penske at the top looking strong. Then Will Power, their teammate, comes on. Last year's champion Alex Palou there, the number 10 car. And then Marcus Ericsson rocketing to the top on the back of his Indy 500 win. And all of a sudden, watch that number 9 car. After last weekend in Toronto, 6-time IndyCar champion Scott Dixon starting to close on the front runners. In fact, it's just 44 points Dixon sits out of that championship lead. But Hinch, on the racetrack, it is gnarly today. There is so much the drivers have to deal with. What are the keys to the race?
Well, let's look at these Honda key to the race right now. There's a couple things you got to take into account to get around this place successfully. First and foremost, you got to keep your eyes high. We are on a short oval, it's high banked, so that means you got to be looking 2, 3, 4 cars in front of you. And who's going to help you with that? Your spotters. You got to trust your eyes in the sky. There's going to be a lot of coming and going, a lot of give and take on the racetrack with different tire strategies, so you got to trust your spotters. And speaking of tire strategies, you got to take care of those Firestones. That's going to be the biggest key at the end of this race. Who can make their tires last the longest in a stint and still have the pace at the end? We've seen some of these late cautions have that question mark. Do we pit for tires or not? And I think that's going to be a huge, huge factor late today.
It's time now for the Hy-Vee starting grid, and Chevy locked out the top 5. First time that's happened in 2 years with one manufacturer.
Yeah, terrific job from the Bowtie crew. Power and Newgarden, Team Penske teammates locking down the front row, but Connor Daly, always strong at Iowa. He'll start his best starting position so far this year.
Can't ignore David Malukas there in P6 as well. We go down to Felix Rosenquist, huge save in qualifying, and then the Ganassi train, all 4 cars starting nose to tail. Colin Herta, a little bit better qualifying for race 2. He'll be inside of row 9 for race 1.
Christian Lundgaard, the rookie, doing a nice job to out-qualify several experienced veterans. Ed Carpenter, team owner for Connor Daly. The car's capable. He just missed it in qualifying, but I think he's going to be strong in the race. So much experience on the ovals, especially in difficult conditions. Hot and windy, Kevin, today. This is going to be such a tough battle.
Plenty of stories down to pit lane. We start with Dylan Welch.
And Kevin, after 4 straight miserable qualifying efforts for Will Power, it finally all came together not once but twice this weekend. He'll lead the field to green this afternoon and tomorrow, and he's now 1 shy of tying Mario Andretti for the all-time pole record. As severe as the tire deg is here, having to not work super hard at the beginning of the race comes at a perfect time for them. They hope it's going to pay dividends, though, at the end of the afternoon today. Off to a great start, Dave Burns. It's all up to Will Power to finish the job now.
Dylan, 30-year-old Connor Daly has 1 career IndyCar pole, and it came right here at the Iowa Speedway a couple of years ago. This is his happy place, and he almost doubled that this morning. He will start 3rd, but he's looking for his first career win. In 90 starts, He has not been to victory lane. He would like to get there today. We'll see if he can take the number 20 Bitnile car there.
Let's let a two-time winner at the Iowa Speedway, James Hinchcliffe, tell us about the Honda track facts.
Let me tell you, this racetrack is so much fun. It's a very difficult place to get around, only 7/8 of a mile. You got to bank it nice and late and high into turn 1. Try to get that late apex, good run off of 2, and then 3, 4, a little more of a traditional oval corner. But it's just a great race, 2 honest lanes to run, and the tire degradation always makes for a great show.
It's the Hy-Vee IndyCar weekend. The IndyCar community is very thankful that this has come back together. It's one of the tracks that needed to be on the schedule once again. It is a party, it is an event, and it should be 2 fantastic races. Are you ready for short track racing in the Heartland?
Ready? Green.
It's the HyVeeDeals.com 250. Let's go from Iowa.
Picture perfect start up front for Team Penske. Power with the move to the point, but further back, look at that red and white car. Marcus Ericsson to the high side. He's going forward early.
4 wide down the front straight. They sort themselves out now through 3 and 4. Potso Award way high on Connor Daly. Not quite able to get that completed as they're 2, 3 wide behind. What a start from Marcus Ericsson, though, really riding the high line.
David Malukas, the rookie who qualified 6th, is hanging in there pretty nicely.
See Jack Harvey there, that candy apple red, the Hy-Vee car. Number 45 putting a move on Rinus VK. That's the battle for 7th. The 2 will stay side by side going into 1, and you can see just how violently the cars shake around as they skip over all of the bumps seemingly everywhere on this racetrack.
That's almost 2 full laps side by side, guys. This is fun action to watch, but you can't do this for too long without wearing out your tires. Something's going to have to give here, and you got to start protecting those Firestones as early as lap 4.
James, so many of the drivers without experience here at Iowa came to you as a 2-time winner and asked for some tips, knowing they didn't have to compete with you. What's the one thing that was most important that you shared with some of the drivers without experience?
That you got to explore that second lane. The car's always going to feel more comfortable down on the bottom. The shorter distance is always going to be faster, Townsend, but you have to get comfortable running up top because that's how you're going to get passes made. Marcus Ericsson was comfortable up top on that first lap, and now he's making it another pass on countryman Felix Rosenquist there. He is moving up fast into the top 10.
He started 12th. Now let's go back to the start. The 2 Penske cars starting on the front row. The Bitnile on board with Connor Daly. Look up ahead at Newgarden on the outside. Power on the inside. Did they rub wheels?
They came close, and I think that was Newgarden just sending a signal to his teammates saying, hey, bud, you're going to deal with me all day long. I'm a 3-time winner. Here is Newgarden as Ericsson now has a pick. He's got Jack Harvey running low. That serves as a pick on Rosenquist, allows Ericsson to go to the high side.
Why that helped him so much was Felix was down on that bottom lane, Ericsson up in the second lane, but Felix didn't have clean air in front of him in the corner, and then Marcus had to draft as Jack came up the track on the straightaway. So it was a double advantage for Marcus, and that's what you get when you're comfortable running up in lane 2. I love what I'm seeing from the number 8 right now.
The other thing you get on the high line is a bigger radius, and with a bigger radius, I believe is easier degradation of the tires. You typically have more clean air up there, and the corner is just wider. You're not leaning on the tires at hard mid-corner down low.
You don't physically have to turn the wheel as far to make it around the corner up there, so that's naturally just going to take care of the tires better, as we saw a little bit of a jump there from Jack Harvey coming off of 2, stopping the progress of Marcus Ericsson, but it's all willpower up front.
Good start for Power, who won poles 65 and 66 today. First lap, race 1. Second lap in qualifying, race 2 for tomorrow. So now he is 1 pole away from tying the legendary Mario Andretti for the most poles in IndyCar history. Dylan.
And this pace, as you see Power starting to already drive away from his teammate Newgarden, exactly what they needed to do. They wanted to take advantage of this clean air at the start just to dictate their own pace and kind of manage the tires how they wanted to manage them. They're going to have to run as long as they can here up front before the undercut starts, so extending that advantage as far as they can over the leaders or the rest of the leaders before they get to the back of the field, the biggest key for Power here early.
And the back of the field is just in front there, Townsend. Dalton Kellett running shotgun right now. He's only about 4 seconds up the road, only 10 laps in.
2 laps, Will Power will be all over the back of Dalton Kellett, and then he has some decisions to make. Do I really try to force my way through lap cars, or do I whoa up a little bit, clean air on my wing, and just worry about my teammate behind me and manage the gap?
Here's the Auto Nation on board. Last time Elio Castroneves was here was way back in 2017. He won that race. He's already moved up 8 spots here today.
James, these guys can go about 80 laps on a stint with fuel, but 80 laps on the tires under green conditions is really difficult.
I'm telling you, almost no one's going to do that on tires as we look at Castroneves around his teammate Simon Pagenaud, another former winner here at Iowa. Just carries that momentum down the back straight into 3. He's going to take the high line on Alexander Rossi through 3 and 4. It's all about momentum at these short tracks, and Elio knows that as well as anybody.
That's impressive stuff. It's something to keep in mind. You see some really normally strong cars starting mid-pack or beyond. Teams were not allowed to make any changes after qualifying, so maybe they were set up more for the race than ultimate 2-lap speed.
We saw that in the Indy Lights race today with Brabham starting 8th and came through to finish 2nd. Did a brilliant job basically foregoing a qualifying setup for just that reason, and presumably, James, that means softer springs and bars to let the car ride the bumps better. Maybe not as good as a pure stiff qualifying car, but much better on the tire.
One of the other big things is ride heights, guys. When you're qualifying here, the lap times are so much faster, the compression in the corners is so much greater. You actually have to run the ride heights higher in qualifying, so sometimes you got to run it a bit lower to compromise. Dave, what do you got?
See Newgarden looking in on Will Power, now making his way toward him. He was told about 6 laps ago. As the caution is out, guys, Owen Johnson has trouble.
Did Jimmy Johnson just spin and not hit a wall again?
Again.
Nice job. Keep going, nice.
Incredible.
I mean, how many times? This guy is the most impressive, dare I say it, spinner. I mean, I've never seen a racing driver in IndyCar spin as many times as he has in his short career and not hit anything. I'm guessing that's what happened.
I mean, I've seen guys spin off of 4 a bunch. He actually went a little bit earlier than you normally see here, but
we're
the fact he
talking
kept it off the wall.
Toronto, you know, road courses, street circuits, short ovals, concrete everywhere. This is on board with Jimmy Johnson.
We're back.
So he's in the dirty air of Grosjean in front. Just gets on the apron there, guys. You saw the left front just caught the apron.
Hang on.
He did a great job of kind of slowing the spin down and then getting on the brakes.
And in NASCAR, you can run all over those aprons to help your car turn. In IndyCar, it'll turn you way more than you'd ever want to.
So a restart coming up. It is Fast and Furious from Iowa Speedway on NBC. Back to green at Iowa Speedway, and Joseph Newgarden into turn 1 on this lap on the restart has gotten by Will Power, and he's starting to take off.
This is not what you want to do, is let Joseph Newgarden, a 3-time winner and the most successful driver in this field at Iowa, get by, and further back 3 wide as David Malukas looks inside Rinus VeeKay and Marcus Ericsson. But up front, Newgarden flat jumped Will Power, and he's checking out.
He sure did, and the championship leader was not being safe. He was taking everything he could there. As we look at the replay of Joseph Newgarden on the restart, just timed it beautifully. Restart gears were perfect, had the inside line, and Will just couldn't hold the outside on Joseph there. And now we'll see what kind of gap he pulls. We saw Will pull a 2.5 seconds in about 10 laps. Let's see what kind of gap we get out of the 2 car with the 12 in pursuit. Although Padua Ward is right behind him, and now
Marcus Ericsson almost lost it up behind McLaughlin.
But he's +6 from the start. The championship leader, Marcus Ericsson, wants another. Going around the outside is Scott McLaughlin. The Husky Chocolate car has got another position.
I mean, Highline Ericsson here, man. I don't think he's been to the bottom of the racetrack yet. Even in relatively clean air, he's hanging it up there because it's even cleaner.
Down to Dave.
Remember, coming in with the championship lead was Marcus Ericsson, and I talked to him about how risky he would be at this track, and he said we don't have to gamble, and I don't have to take risks that are gamble-like. We need to do what we can. We will try to win, but if we have a top 5, we're not going to throw it away doing something risky, and you can see with the high line there anyway, he didn't think that was risky. That was just another pass.
By the way, during the caution, Scott Dixon was the first to hit pit lane. He was 15th, so many on back. 16th and on back on the restart, all ducked down to pit lane for an early stop.
So I want to know, James, is Ericsson one of the guys that went to your traffic school, your tutorial on how to run traffic at Iowa?
Well, you got to remember, we were teammates here at Iowa one year, so we definitely have had some conversations about how to get around this place, and you know, he was pretty comfortable after his test here a few weeks back. But man, he is just the first driver to really commit up top.
I mean, I like your call early on. You said running the high side. You see Will Power starting to move up, find some clean air on Newgarden. And if I'm the spotter for a guy like Pato O'Ward, I'll be talking about maybe moving your way up, but it's tough when Power starts high and then comes low at the clipping point at the apex in turn 2 and takes all the air off Pato O'Ward's car.
Oh, do not be fooled. There is a strategy to how do you drive your car to affect the air of the car behind you. Sometimes you might have a preferred lane, but if the car behind you is catching you on a different lane, you're going to move down and take their preferred lane away. So a little bit of feeling each other out and kind of seeing where everyone's happy right now. And I guarantee you drivers and spotters are making notes about who likes driving where.
Good look at the aero on board. Pato O'Ward running third, looking up ahead to the top 2. And you also see the Firestone telemetry of what he's dealing with, Townsend.
Yeah, I mean, in qualifying, these guys were just north of 190 miles an hour, now mid-170s. And that's the wild thing about Iowa, is that you could start at a lap at 170 miles an hour average on fresh tires. By about lap 60, you're doing laps in the low 150, high 140 range. There's no other racetrack on the schedule that falls off like this. As you see Romain Grosjean in that yellow and red DHL car starting to struggle a bit, and Jimmy Johnson, who did not go a lap down with that spin, is going forward on new tires.
He did come into the pits and get those fresh boots, so yeah, he's got that advantage over the 28 as Cal Milot now looks down to the inside of Romain Grosjean, another one of the drivers that came into the pits under that caution on that fresh rubber. And now you're going to see these guys who did not stop, 33 laps on your tires. That's when you really start to lose performance.
I really like the call of all those cars that came in, including Colton Herta, who's already up to 7th. Herta, the best of the cars that stopped early. He is railing right now.
And also Castro Neves came in and stopped. He started in the back. He's into the top 10 already.
Now remember, guys, it all looks great and rosy right now, but at some point you got to pay the piper, and there's going to have to be a very long stint on a set of tires if you don't get a yellow timed well as Malukas is under attack.
Yeah, but think about this. If you're Colton Herta, whoa, here goes Castro Neves, slides up into the gray, gets the jet wash.
Malukas just cut down, took all the air off from riding on board with the AutoNation on board there, and you saw how when you have a car cut down in front of you like that, it takes all the air, all the downforce off the front of your wing, off the front of that car, creates a ton of understeer, and the car just slides right up the track as we watch the Gamebridge Honda.
Here's what I was going to say. Colton Herta up to 6th. This guy started 17th. So even if he stops again at lap 60 with the leaders, it's a net. It's a gain all across the board, Dave.
It's been interesting. Townsend started 17th, right, and qualified not well on his first lap. I asked him about that. Second lap was much better this morning. He said, I didn't get the good warm-up lap. I didn't come to the green as good as I should have, but the car is much better than that. And even though my average finish here is 19th, he told me, I've had good runs. I've had strong race cars here. Plenty of confidence, and right now, fresh Firestones.
But he qualified 3rd with his second lap for tomorrow's race, but he told us they are planning an engine change, so he's going to have a grid penalty coming up for tomorrow's race and won't start near the front.
Watch this. He's going to go blowing by Connor Daly here, I think, in a lap or so. As we see the BitNile camera out the back, look at all that additional grip. Such a huge difference.
And one of the big challenges for the drivers right now that did not stop is stay calm, be patient. Yes, these drivers on 20-lap newer tires, they're going to make some ground up right now. They're going to be making passes. You feel helpless as the driver that stayed out, but you cannot panic. You cannot overdrive. You still have to think about your car and your tires.
And so important, the information coming from your spotters and your timing stand to coach you through the various strategies so that you don't get sucked in to trying too hard. That information is critical.
That's
to keep the drivers calm.
Sorry, Townsend, in different colors this weekend. Ridgeline Lubricants and Jimmy Johnson just went around Alex Palou. We're off and racing in the world's fastest short track in Iowa. You're watching NBC's coverage of IndyCar, brought to you by IV. Throughout the race season, IVDeals.com provides a chance to win $25,000. IVDeals.com, proud sponsor of the number 45 car. Shield Products, your full lineup of disinfectant cleansers and PPE products, and proud partner of Rahal Letterman Landing and Racing. Liberty Mutual Insurance, only pay for what you need. And by NTT, official sponsor and technology partner of the NTT IndyCar Series. Lee Diffie is on assignment. Really thrilling stuff at the World Track and Field Championships. Kevin Lee, Townsend Bell, James Hinchcliffe, and really thrilling racing here at Iowa Speedway.
Well, especially for this guy, Colton Herta, who took the strategy to pit on that last caution earlier than you need to by fuel, but you got fresh tires. Colton Herta is now up to third, just 1.7 seconds back of Joseph Newgarden, who's on the older tires. James, this guy could get to the lead legit and be back on the same strategy as Connor Daly comes to pit lane.
Dylan.
And he was backsliding, and he was very animated and agitated on the radio, just reporting the car had an inconsistent balance, and now they've got a little bit of a hiccup waiting on fuel. Connor's back on the racetrack.
Started in third, had slipped just outside the top 10, so he comes in on lap 52.
Definitely inside the window for that three-stopper. It's not, it's on the early side, but not unheard of. You saw them making a wing change, adjusting the angle of the front wing, which adjusts the amount of air that hits the front versus the back of the car and affects the balance, essentially adding or taking away grip from the front of the car.
Here comes Herta on Will Power on fresher tires.
Because the other thing that slowed up Joseph Newgarden and Will Powers, they've now caught the back of the lead lap. You see Ed Carpenter there just in front as David Malukas dives into pit lane. The top qualifying rookie doing a phenomenal job.
Started sixth and dropped just outside the top 10, but hanging in there.
Castro Neves now. That's not, wait. Was that Castro Neves and Colton Herta? No, because Castro Neves is further down. I misspoke, I apologize.
You got those two nearly identical SiriusXM Auto Nation cars with Meyer Shank Racing. Castro Neves has more black on the top of the cars. We watch Joseph Newgarden getting around Alexander Rossi going a lap down. On the Auto Nation onboard, Rossi looks up ahead at the leader.
And I think you really have to plan if you're going to stick to the three-stop strategy. Get to about lap 61, 62 on this stint, keeping in mind the pace laps to start the race, as Colton Herta coming up on the back of Connor Daly right now.
Now Connor Daly's driving away from Colton Herta because he's got those fresh Firestones now. The problem with this racetrack and the length of it is because it's so short, 33-second loss roughly on pit lane, you actually fall 2 laps down to the leader. So right now, Connor Daly is 2 laps down.
Trying to get back to 1 lap down before Newgarden pits.
Exactly right. And what the risk is if a caution comes out, you are trapped. You'll get one of those laps back, but then you're going to have to restart still a full lap down as Malukas now trying to claw some ground back after his last pit stop.
Look at the difference with fresh Firestones. Colton Herta has been a rocket. Malukas comes in and just drives right by him. There's the leader, Joseph Newgarden, a 3-time winner here at Iowa Speedway.
This is the best. As a driver, you feel like you just got the star in Mario Kart. You're driving around everything in front of you. You think you're indestructible. He goes high on Will Power, low on Ed Carpenter. David Malukas just slicing through the field
and
right
if you're
now.
Malukas, you have to go because you're a little short to make it on 3 stops, so you've got to cover and go as fast as you can in case you need to make a 4th stop. If this thing stays green, it's going to be tough to do it just on tires under green flag conditions like that.
So another car pulling off into pit lane there. There's your championship leader's going to pull in as we see Jack Harvey making a move on Scott McLaughlin. That's for 5th and 6th.
So Harvey just pitted a moment ago, so he's a couple of laps down, so he's a big witness
in 5th.
That's how fast things are happening here. I mean, it's hard enough when you're up here in the booth with all the information. When you're in the cockpit like Roman Grosjean, Dave, it's hard to keep track of just about anything except the driving.
A lot of cars on pit road. Pato Award behind him as well. Award's car was free. The 28 of Grosjean was just not good. And you see the leader of the race now, the 2 of Joseph Newgarden coming in top of your screen there. By the way, he was told, hey, to reset your cool suit, you've got to hit the button marked PC. I hope it hasn't failed on Joseph. It's a hot day out there. He's gone.
We talked about this the other day. If your cool suit fails, like a radiator putting heat into a room, it can overcook your core temperature. So potentially there's a critical issue there for Newgarden. Dylan.
Getting a look at Scott McLaughlin there on the bottom. Alex Palou just pitted, and Will Power is pitting behind him right now. Will was talking about just having some issues with the rear of the race car. You'll see them reach across and pull a tear off. Adds 4 sticker Firestone tires. Waiting for a wing change. Didn't see one for Power.
No wing change, but the Verizon crew may have done a tire pressure adjustment for him as we see Colton Herta now back in. As you said, Townsend, pit with the leaders. He's now essentially running honestly in the top 5, even though he's had an extra stop. Scott Dixon now also in the pit lane, Dave.
And he's been very happy about his race car most of the weekend. Didn't get all of it in qualifying that he could have. Mike Hull, the strategist, told me that was our fault. We could have given Scott a better car, but they were very confident about what they had in terms of raceability. And Dixon, as usual, showing that here at Iowa.
So top at least 27, I think top 9, pitted on lap 19, and the leader of the race is Jimmy Johnson. Stopped on lap 19. Helio Castroneves is running second. Stay with us from Iowa. All season long, grab your mobile device and scan the QR code on the screen now for a chance to win $25,000 from Hy-Vee. Scan the code and register at HyVeeDeals.com for your chance to take home the big prize. Jimmy Johnson leads at Iowa Speedway. Effectively, Joseph Newgarden is the leader. He's running second, and he is tops of those that does not need to stop soon. Down to Dylan Welch.
Well, it's been a great weekend here for Hy-Vee, and so much interaction and so much displays and things that have gone into making Hy-Vee IndyCar race weekend here at Iowa. So we've got two special guests. Randy Edeker has joined us. He's the chairman and CEO of Hy-Vee, along with Olympic gold medalist Shawn Johnson, who's a Des Moines native and, of course, a Hy-Vee athlete as well. So, Randy, let's start with you. This place looks amazing. Has it turned out exactly like you guys hoped it would?
Oh, absolutely. We've worked hard with connection with Penske Racing and Hy-Vee. We put a lot of effort into painting everything, orchestrating all of the cleanup, the touch-up that need to happen. We think that it came out pretty good. We're really proud of all of our people and all the volunteers.
It looks great. And Shawn, for you, what do you think of all this? You're a Des Moines native. I know you've seen this place before, but this is pretty crazy, isn't it?
It's just great to be home. We're huge IndyCar fans, and especially seeing everything Hy-Vee has done here. It's a really special race.
It is indeed. Great to have both of you here. And Jack Harvey, of course, sporting the Hy-Vee colors this weekend, has had a great weekend so far. But really cool initiative, guys, and the place looks great.
Best start of the season for Harvey. Qualified 7th this morning for this race. And everyone, or a couple of different strategies going on in pit sequences at this point. So he's one of those trying to work his way back. I don't know if they had a slow pit stop somewhere, but they lost a lot of track position somewhere in the sequence.
I'll tell you what, James, 77 laps. It's hard to keep track when it's green flag the whole time. There are comers and goers, new tires, old tires. But for this guy, Jimmy Johnson, continues to lead laps in IndyCar. Pretty big deal despite spinning midway through the first stint. He didn't go a lap down. He was able to take fresh tires, and Jimmy Johnson's settling in pretty nicely.
It really is. And you look, he's got a bit of a train of cars behind him that have newer tires, not able to get around him. You see Marcus Ericsson back there. He's really trapped. He's effectively running, he's in 5th position, but he's the first car a lap down. He needs to get in front of Jimmy Johnson and get the chase going after Power and O'Ward. Down to Dylan.
And guys, as we see Jimmy Johnson continue to lead laps, something that the team mentioned to me this weekend that they really are trying to do, especially here, is just be proactive with their communication. At the other ovals, they felt like that was something that they dropped the ball on, just not keeping Jimmy afloat of everybody else's situation around him. So to try to keep Jimmy calm and cool behind the wheel of his race car, they're really conscious of just making sure he doesn't get frustrated with everything that's going on around him. And now you see him diving to pit road.
Not the first laps he's led a couple off sequence at the Indianapolis 500, but did a nice job running up front today, and he's got a little bit of strategy to play with going long on these Firestones.
Hopefully a nice, clean, quick stop here from the Carvana crew. Carvana on board giving us this shot. Jimmy's down and away. And that released Marcus Ericsson to get around the Rahal Letterman-Lanigan duo of Lundgaard and Harvey to start that chase now of Will Power. And that's why we're seeing all of these cars no longer a lap down as they unlap themselves from Jimmy Johnson, who was leading.
Yeah, he's going to have a tough time staying on the lead lap here as Colton Herta battling it out with Graham Rahal. But Rahal well down. He's a lap down in 24th right now, on board with McLaughlin. McLaughlin on the leader's strategy. McLaughlin running 7th. Newgarden leading now. O'Ward and Power duking it out pretty close. But this mid-pack right here, this battle with Herta, McLaughlin, and Dixon is going to be pretty fierce.
And what you're doing if you're Scott McLaughlin, you're frustrated because both cars are running in separate lanes in front of him. He was trying to put his car in the middle of the track, in between where the two were, to try to get some clean air onto his car. Once they finally split up, he was able to get that clean run off of turn 2, get ahead of Colton Herta, now move Scott McLaughlin into the top 5. And guys, what I liked about watching Scott is in his pit stop, no changes.
Here's what you're seeing right here. Joseph Newgarden, the race leader, and Jimmy Johnson came out just behind him. So that puts Johnson a lap down. So there's a huge incentive for Jimmy now to push as hard as he can, try to pass Newgarden in traffic and get back on the lead lap.
He's got 20 laps newer tires, so there's a very good chance once he's fully up to speed, he will be able to get around Joseph Newgarden, get himself back onto that top, or lead lap, as we see Scott Dixon and Colton Herta side by side now through 3 and 4. I mean, brilliant strategy from the Gamebridge guys to get Colton up there, but we can't forget the Andretti Autosport crew has been struggling with their race cars this weekend, so maybe a bit of that starting to set in here.
Kevin Scott Dixon going forward in the race, going forward in the championship, up to 4th in points as they run right now, as Jimmy Johnson, like we just talked about, just got around Newgarden. Back on the lead lap. Let's listen to some radio.
We just need to protect against that. I got really free here on this run. Might take some wing out. And it's probably just that Indy Lights rubber. As the track got better, we don't need as much wing.
I love how calm he is behind the wheel there, guys. You know, he's just communicating back and forth with the crew. He said it's a little bit loose. Might want to take some wing out of it. Next pit stop, they can make that adjustment and make the car better.
Joseph Newgarden looking for win number 4 at Iowa Speedway, but a long way to go. Catch up with Jimmy Johnson on Carvana's new docuseries, Reinventing the Wheel. Go behind the scenes with Johnson and his crew as they face new challenges and adventures on and off the track. Check out the full series on Carvana.com/racing. There should be good content for the next one because Jimmy Johnson picked up a couple of more spots as you watched on Nonstop. He is running a legit 8th right now in this race.
And running down Rinus VeeKay right in front of him here, guys.
So let's check in on the 20 Ed Carpenter Racing Bitnile pit stand. We've got a spy cam down there to see how Connor Daly's doing.
Completely dead in the water here. Your pace is kind of matching what these guys are doing. I know it's hard right now, but you're in a different sequence on tires here. You're B14 right now. We got to hang in there. Got to settle in.
Yeah, it's like we talked about. You got to stay calm when all of a sudden there's all these different tire strategies at play. You feel like you're out to lunch, but really on the strategy you're on, everyone else is struggling just as much as you are. It's all about keeping your cool, keeping your calm, and just trying to pound these laps out and make those tires last as long as you can.
Well, I understand Daly's frustration because a lot of the cars that are on the same pit strategy, including the leaders, you know, that puts Connor Daly on about 14th position as they run right now and struggling for pace. He's watching other cars like Lundgaard go blowing by with ease, so it's tough out there. Not much you can do, though, if you're on the pit stand. You can't afford to stop early and give up track time during green flag running, track position during green flag running. Connor would go another 2 laps now.
But he did stop early. He was one of the first that was doing on a traditional strategy, stopped on lap 50, so he's got an extra 10 laps or so on the tires as we see Alex Palou, the defending IndyCar champion, going a lap down now to Joseph Newgarden.
Callum Ilott, the next car in line for Joseph to go after. Cutting through traffic here, it's so important. He's pulled out a 6-second gap over Pato O'Ward. Pato obviously just not quite as comfortable in the dirty air of the traffic, not able to clear these cars as quickly, and it's amazing how fast that size of a gap can open up here.
Also not comfortable is Colton Herta. Listen to his radio.
What do you got, bud? Can you do anything with the tools? No. It's all dig. We dig so fast.
Remember how good he was on the new tires, having pitted on lap 19. Since he got back out here, he said it is so bad. He told me this morning at Dillon's, you see the 20 car on and off of pit road. Colton Herta told me this morning, he said, you know, we've never been the guys here at Andretti Autosport. We've been pretty good, but we've never been the guys. So kind of showing again today as the organization is struggling just a bit.
And meanwhile, while we watch Colton Herta, Jimmy Johnson, like he did at Texas Motor Speedway late in the race, he gave it back, but he passed Scott Dixon on track as we look at the Carvana on board.
He just passed Scott McLaughlin for fifth position. Jimmy Johnson is crushing it right now. Yes, he's on slightly fresher tires, but he'll have the option to pit at lap 125-ish along with the leaders and be on the same strategy. He goes to the high side of Graham Rahal. Johnson going forward. Next up the road is Will Power, about 3 seconds, but he should catch him pretty quickly.
That's the high side. Graham's running around in lane 2. I think Jimmy was flirting with lane 3 there.
But think about the deep swimming pool that Johnson jumped into when he came to IndyCar. Everywhere is unfamiliar. These road and street circuits in high-performance open-wheel race cars, but he is home right now in Iowa. This must feel so familiar to Jimmy, a multi-groove short track at high speeds with different tire wear. Dylan, it must feel awfully good right now for the 48.
It does, and he's had the time of his life this weekend. We heard his radio in practice or qualifying talking about that, but he talked too about how valuable the test was just to get his senses acclimated to the speed and moving around and everything that makes this racetrack so difficult. So that was extremely helpful for him. Keep in mind too, he was a little cautiously optimistic about this first race, said he'd maybe be better tomorrow because he'll have a race under his belt. If he's going to be better tomorrow, I can't wait to watch him. He's been pretty impressive here in race 1.
He's going to have to be careful with moves like that. Jimmy Johnson up in the gray. James, your hands are on your head right now. Why is it?
I'm so nervous. This is making me so uncomfortable, guys. When you have a car running in lane 2 like that, you don't try to go to lane 3. Eventually the marbles get up there. He's the only car driving up there. Cut back down, get down to the bottom of the racetrack, find that clean air. He was making lane 3 happen. Oh my God, I'm sweating. I'm sweating in the air conditioning. Watch this.
Kev, the dark groove is where the rubber is. The light gray is where the dust and the marbles accumulate. And wow, that was brave, good stuff, but he's feeling good. High, wide, and handsome.
I mean, big credit to both Devlin DeFrancesco and Devlin's spotter, Cole Carter, for letting him know that Johnson was coming at a rate on the outside there. That was a really, really strong move from the 48.
He took 2 1/4, and he's still picking up lap traffic. Jimmy Johnson's best IndyCar finish, 6th at Texas, running 5th right now at Iowa. Under caution, a little short of midway through the HighVDeals.com 250 at Iowa Speedway. You saw it in nonstop. The caution for Felix Rosenqvist, Arrow McLaren SP, who is in some ways trying to convince his bosses that he should stay in that ride for next season. Let's see what happened.
Just loses the rear on the bump. It jumps out early in turn 1, and you hear the crunch as the gearbox and left rear suspension hits the safer barrier over in turn 2. And that, I'm sure, came as a big surprise to Rosenqvist. Just released all the grip in the car when he rode over the bump like that.
He told me yesterday this is the one oval where he still hasn't had the breakthrough yet. He's not super comfortable, but he thought he was going to get there. In the past, what little experience he's had here, he's mostly just tried to survive. He said, I'm going to try to take it up a notch here and see if I can be a little more aggressive. But unfortunately, it bit him here in race 1 of 2 this weekend. Remember, IndyCar races again tomorrow afternoon, 3 o'clock Eastern, here on NBC.
So the battle on the track's been fierce, but the battle on pit lane about to get fierce.
Wow. Joseph Newgarden comes in, and here we go. Dave, what do you got?
Second, first, and third as you see them in the order there. And Townsend, I was thinking the same thing. Now it's time for the pit crews to shine. Remember, Newgarden's car was just a bit free. He's going to get a 0.25% out on the front wing. The 5 on the top, Pato O'Ward, he said, my car is so loose. He'll get an adjustment for that. On the bottom, Marcus Ericsson doing what he should do today. Running third, and consistency has been the hallmark all season long for him. The championship leader and everybody else, Firestone Tires and Speedway Fuel.
Joseph Newgarden wins the race off pit road. Back for a restart. It is as tight at pit X's at Iowa Speedway. Throughout the Indy racing season, grab your mobile device and scan the QR code on your screen for a chance to win $25,000 at HighVDeals.com. It's simple. Scan the QR code and register to win. Thanks to our friends at Hy-Vee. And they have done such a fantastic job here in the Iowa area, activating all of their employees to help make this racetrack look brand new. Built in 2006, but it is awesome this weekend. Crowd braving the heat, which is close to 100 degrees today here at the racetrack, and there is a nice crowd on hand. It's supposed to be much more comfortable tomorrow. 84, 85 degrees is the expected high for the second half of the doubleheader of Hy-Vee IndyCar weekend. Look at those temporary suites. They basically have 5 times the amount of suite capacity as they have had in the past at Iowa Speedway, and they were all sold out.
And I was up there yesterday for practice. I got to tell you guys, it is a great seat. It is a great place to watch. You have an a bird's eye view of the entire racetrack. You can see all the action, and man, is there a lot of action here in Iowa. More action for the 26 crew than they want to see. Looks like he can't get it into neutral.
The mic, I can't do it. There's no clutch. I can't get neutral.
Oh boy, Colton Herta was the star of the show early. One of the earlier stoppers for fresh Firestones. Drove through the field up to the front And now you see a steering wheel change.
But if they're rocking the car, that means the clutch is working potentially. It shouldn't rock that much in gear. It still is in gear, I guess.
Yeah, it'll rock that much in gear. And they switched the steering wheel for that problem because these IndyCars have a hand clutch. The clutch is on the steering wheel. It's electronic.
Remember at Road America in practice, was it this team that went up on the jacks, fired the car, and just spun it in gear and dropped it?
It was. There was, I think, with Alexander Rossi, they did that. IndyCar didn't love that, though.
Yeah, well, but in a race, I don't think it's been banned. Maybe it's been discouraged. But at this point, Colton Herta is just dropping. He's a lap down. This is terrible. Let's take a look at the pit stop comparison. That battle on pit lane under caution. Thanks to NTT, this is the pit lane comparison. Powered by NTT. Scott Dixon versus Jimmy Johnson. Dixon with the advantage.
All right, here we go. Back to green. Top 8 pitted at lap 116. One more stop should get it done for all the leaders. Joseph Newgarden, Pato O'Ward. Look at Marcus Ericsson. He's the championship leader in that red and white car. Going down to the low side on Pato O'Ward. He's going to grab second.
Oh, Jimmy Johnson getting tight there with, looked like Ed Carpenter, but Johnson now all over the back of Scott McLaughlin. Meanwhile, that's Scott Dixon in the orange and blue PNC car. Will Power defending going forward, over Pato O'Ward.
And man, no one told Marcus Ericsson about this whole points racing concept. He is just going for broke right now, and it is going well. Will Power around Pato O'Ward through 3 and 4.
Well, Power had to check up maybe. O'Ward's going to have something to say about it as they go into turn 1.
It's amazing how much more speed you can send into turn 1 on that high line. Normally you claw back a little bit of ground with a shorter radius down on the bottom of the racetrack, but not enough right now. Will Power staying in front. Scott McLaughlin now has his eyes on the number 5.
We're just past halfway now. Joseph Newgarden is leading in the first half of the doubleheader of the Hy-Vee IndyCar weekend, but the restart is under review. Don't watch the leaders. It's a little further back. Anything out of sort there?
Yeah, the rule is you cannot, as we see the caution flying, the caution is flying for debris. But just going back to that restart, you're not supposed to move out of line until the green flag flies. Once the green flag flies, all bets are off. Racing is good to go. But if some cars further back, 5, 6, 7 in line, weren't lined up with the car in front, that could potentially lead to a penalty.
It's like a GoPro mount.
Yeah, it does look like that.
What in the world is that doing on the track?
I promise, it's not ours.
Yeah,
I know, but you wouldn't run a suction cup on an IndyCar in a race.
You would not. You wouldn't run a GoPro on an IndyCar in a race. They have cameras built into the roll hoop. That's the only camera allowed.
Suction cup is not an approved mounting device at 190 miles an hour.
It is not. We look at the Gamebridge Honda of Colton Herta. He is now 6 laps down, back out on the racetrack, but effectively out of contention for this one. It would take a whole lot of individual caution periods for him to be able to claw that back. So devastating result for those guys and girls on that crew. Dylan, what do you know?
Well, we've been entertained by Jimmy Johnson thus far. Is he having fun? Sounds like it. Take a listen.
You having fun? Yeah, it's a blast. Doing a great job, man. Let's just close this deal out here.
Gonna make the highlight reel on that one pass.
And for what it's worth, there are some other teams that are racing around Jimmy that have cautioned their drivers to just be on the lookout because Jimmy has made some bold moves, but they've all worked so far and it's been entertaining.
James, if I was coaching Jimmy, I would not be hyping him that you're going to make the highlight reel like, yeah, that was awesome, do it again. I'd be saying, hey, dude, you were lucky to get away with running that high with the marbles.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that the racetrack will not be favorable after 70, 80 laps of running with all the dust and rubber buildup up high. I think he got narrowly away with several super dicey moments.
I love that he's had the guts to go up into that third lane, but if he's the only car up there running it, eventually the marbles and dirt are going to be too prevalent in that part of the racetrack. The grip will completely disappear, so he needs to be a little more comfortable getting down into lane 1 when a car is running in lane 2, which is obviously his preferred line. We're looking at the number 5 of Pato O'Ward. Dave Burns, what do you have?
Hinch, we saw Marcus Ericsson jump him on that restart and take second place away. There was some radio traffic right after that sort of explained what was happening. Pato thought he had an engine event. Instead, the pit box was telling him, we don't see anything but a small plenum event on our data. And then he told them, we don't have the right restart gear. And the explanation was, and they know that, and that's why he got jumped.
There will be no action on the restart, so all is good. I wonder sometimes, too, if someone jumps out of line, they say, That's okay, because if you didn't jump out of line, you were going to run over the guy in front of you.
An avoidance issue, yeah. They talk about the restart gears there. That's a very important part of the setup for these cars. The engineers try to pick gears to get good launches for the restart, but you have to balance that with your top running gears. And Dave Burns is caught up with Felix Rosenquist.
Just stepped out of the infield care center. Are you okay? It was a pretty good hit. And then you and I talked about changing things up. You talked to me about changing things up this weekend. Did that have anything to do with the incident?
No, not really. No, I'm fine. Thank you. No, man, I was very free that stint. I was a little bit free the first stint, and the second was even more. And after like 30 laps or so, I just knew it was going to be a tough, end of the stint, and I was maxed out on my tools. So there was a couple of times I felt kind of the same thing happening in one, and then last time there it just was too much to save. And it's unfortunate. I think we were running pretty well, and we were still not slow. Like, it was just very free. Yeah, the McLaren SP was just very, very quick, and it looks like Potter's running a good race. So yeah, I just got caught out by the freeness.
Tough end of the day, guys, for Felix. And remember, they were the team outside of Penske that was visioned as maybe the other team that was really good here. They were fast.
We talked at the beginning of the day today, championship implications. This is essentially double points with a doubleheader weekend. Top 5 in this race are all still in the championship. Scott McLaughlin has some work to do, but he's still somewhat within range. 7th, 77 back, especially if he can have a good result. Ericsson is the championship leader. Newgarden is tied for 4th. Power is 2nd. Pato O'Ward is still in the mix. Here we go again from Iowa, and Will Power and Marcus Ericsson are side by side for 2nd. Ericsson is going to hang on to the position.
Boy, that high line is working well as Ericsson takes the high line on Joseph Newgarden for the lead in turn 4.
He had the chance to defend down low against Will Power on that restart, but he says, no, my car is running well up top. And look, he doesn't try to go down low on Joseph Newgarden. He wants to run up top.
Look at Joseph Newgarden moving his line up the track with a big wiggle off the back of his car. Here comes Ericsson to the low line.
He won the biggest oval race in the world earlier this year. The Indy 500 winner, Marcus Ericsson, might have touched front wheel to rear left with Joseph Newgarden. They both hang on.
That was almost disaster for both drivers. That could have been a huge crash for the lead.
It seems like both guys prefer the high line right now. Joseph Newgarden almost moving up to try to take the air away from Marcus Ericsson. We see there, did they touch? I see contact. Oh. It wasn't much, but it was there.
Talk about the squeeze job. Newgarden leaving no room for Ericsson down low. And here comes Will Power.
That red and black Verizon car on the red and white Husky chocolate car has a big run. Power to the inside, and now it's Penske 1-2 in Iowa.
Power says, you want to run that high line in Joseph's dirty air? No problem. I'll take that low line all day long, that clean air on the front wing, and I'll make that pass on Joseph. Now Joseph goes down to the bottom because he knows that's where Will likes to run.
Lap 138, Kevin, about 30 laps until you'll see everybody making their final stop. Maybe a bit more than that, probably 40 laps. 178, 180 will get you home.
Man, it's interesting watching how the cars are placing themselves to affect the drivers behind them. But you see, even with the clean air down low, Marcus Ericsson's preferring that high line, but just doesn't quite have the pace on this set of the cars around him.
That's right here with Pato O'Ward. Just listen to him hunting on the throttle, trying to find the grip and watch the hands. Fastest hands in IndyCar, this kid right here.
No pressure here, +8.
The arrow on board shows us the Firestone telemetry. Pato O'Ward looking for some clean air, trying to chase down Marcus Ericsson in front.
And you see the sort of space out. You got Will down in lane 1, Marcus up in lane 2, then Pato staggered back down in lane 1. But it looks like Marcus Ericsson's starting to get a little bit of that pace back as the freshness of those Firestones wears off. The bottom becomes a little slower, and you got to move up top.
So fun to watch O'Ward's onboard, just to see the top 4 cars kind of fan out. Everybody trying to hunt for fresh air on the front wing. Ericsson making that high line work pretty well.
Newgarden held up a challenge on the restart, but there is plenty more to come. One more pit stop and more at Iowa. You're watching NBC's coverage of IndyCar, brought to you by High Rock, official spirits partner of Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan. Best way to celebrate life's High Rock moments. Honda, an official vehicle of the NTT IndyCar Series. and by Hy-Vee, proud sponsor of Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan Racing. Hy-Vee, making lives easier, healthier, and happier. Lee Diffie back with us next weekend at the Brickyard for the IndyCar NASCAR doubleheader. Kevin Lee, Townsend Bell, James Hinchcliffe, Dave Burns, Dylan Welch, and Jimmy Johnson fighting for the top 5. He's just lost a spot, though, to Rinus VeeKay, who got it for 6.
He's not going to give it up easy, though. Jimmy with a run down the back straightaway, looks high on VeeKay, going to send it into 3, slide up the track a little bit, and then regroup and try again. Oh, James about 30, 35 laps until the final pit stop. And oh, Jimmy Johnson almost lost it. Huge moment at the back of the race car going into 1.
That was on the way in. He couldn't decide which lane he wanted to go to. He was trying to wait for Rinus VeeKay to make that first move.
Look at that, we pull that.
Big wiggle, but man, he kept his foot in it. It hasn't scared him. Here's the onboard. Whoa, he may have gone on the brakes there.
But here he comes right back, trying to go around the outside.
It's a battle between a 20-year-old Jimmy Johnson and a 47-year-old Jimmy Johnson. Half part maniac, half part father of 2, responsible, thinking, all right, I got to keep it all together here and finish this race.
And the guy in front of him actually is 21 years old, Rinus VeeKay in that orange Bitnile car.
And Rinus, usually known as the guy that likes trying to roll that outside lane, make some spectacular passes happen. But it's been Jimmy Johnson today that's been putting those moves down. So he goes way high in 3 and 4.
And Jimmy's 46, by the way.
Close enough.
I said 46.
Who's counting?
Who's counting?
Well, for a little while, we had guys north of 46 running 1-2 with Jimmy and Elio Castroneves.
I love the day this guy's having. I mean, he's learning so much. He's having a blast. We heard it on the radio as Joseph Newgarden laps Kyle Kirkwood.
Kirkwood doing a good job right now, hanging on to that thing after some struggles this weekend, but having a clean race. And the battle right now for third place is still going hard. Pato O'Ward, great run off at turn 2.
He's got the run on the inside.
Outside, still there. Clear, clear.
Award to 3rd.
Nice job. Next start, Kirkwood.
Dave, tell us more about Marcus Ericsson.
Yeah, just got past there. A bit of understeer right now for the current championship leader. But you saw how aggressive he was earlier today on the racetrack. And I talked with Mike O'Gara, his strategist, about that. How aggressive could he be this weekend? And he said, well, are you playing to win this year? Are you playing not to lose? And then he gave me an analogy. Sorry, Falcons fans. Remember 2017 when Atlanta was so far ahead in the Super Bowl, but the Patriots came back and beat them. He said, we need to play to win. And Marcus himself told me, I think I need at least 1 more, maybe 2 wins on the season if I'm going to win the championship. So expect him to be aggressive later today when that car gets back to form for the last pit stop, and even tomorrow.
Here comes Scott McLaughlin in that black and blue Freightliner car this weekend, the number 3 for Penske. And by the way, guys, temperature here, ambient, 99 degrees. Our records from Russ Thompson say that that's the hottest IndyCar race that we've seen. Meanwhile, Will Power is going to take a look at Joseph Newgarden. He's right on the gearbox. The 2 Penske drivers are ready to battle.
Newgarden had to check up there behind Simon Pagenaud in that black and pink Auto Nation car. It allowed Will Power to draw close, but Newgarden, with just a hint of clean air, should be able to stretch that gap back out. But that's the issue, is lap traffic decision making is so important.
Scott McLaughlin now eyeing the back of Marcus Ericsson. He's got the Freightliner on board right now, trying to make that lane work. He's got Marcus's traffic in front of him, doesn't know which lane to use. We know he likes the top lane. He's got to go to the bottom here. A bit of momentum from Scott McLaughlin. He's got to keep his foot in it here.
Oh, listen to him hunt on the throttle. He finally digs in and buries the pedal. It's going to allow him to get a run. And now Ericsson is trapped behind Pagenaud. Ericsson to the high side. He's in the gray. He's going to hit the wall. No!
But he's going to lose lots of positions, several spots, slipping backwards. I think he's going to fall back to 8th. By the way, that temperature, hottest since 2012 at Fontana, 99 degrees and just as hot on track at Iowa Speedway.
Back at Iowa, pit stops complete. Will Power pitted from 2nd. Car pretty good, didn't make any changes for Will. He comes out 2nd behind his teammate, Dave.
That was leader Joseph Newgarden, who had a stellar pit stop on pit lane. He was able to get a wing change put back that they put in the last time. Remember, he didn't like the handling on that race car, so wing back the way Newgarden likes it. That could be trouble for the field. Newgarden's led 125 laps so far today, trying to go to the end now. Most of these guys will go to the end. Should be good on fuel, boys.
This is earlier, though, than they wanted to make their last stop, but under caution because of caution number 4 and Ed Carpenter crashing. Ed was already a couple of laps down and struggling through the day.
Go low, go low.
You saw it from the Hy-Vee on board of Jack Harvey there, and there he is backing into the wall. So too much damage for today, but easily fixable for tomorrow, because remember, anyone that has a big crash, that impacts your race for tomorrow. And Alexander Rossi had to whoa up there. Remember, that's his teammate next year. Pato Award that he avoid crashing. Rossi is headed to Arrow McLaren SP next season.
Doesn't get much closer than this on such a tight-lit pit lane here. Rossi locks up. Smart heads-up driving from Rossi. Almost took Palou out of contention.
You got to question if race control is looking at an unsafe release there.
Yeah, the driver pitting has the right of way, essentially, correct? He's allowed to get into his pit stall.
Absolutely. He's lucky that Rossi had that open box in front of him. He was able to just kind of get that tight left turn to get in there. It's hard to get into your pit boxes in these ovals, the way the cars are set up, with the toes and the cambers, just the way the car turns left versus right.
All right, we'll sneak in one and we'll come back for a restart coming up in just a moment at Iowa Speedway on NBC. Hy-Vee is putting on not just a race this weekend, it's a music festival. Florida Georgia Line coming up after the race. Tim McGraw early this afternoon has already played, and 2 more big shows coming up tomorrow. Gwen Stefani before the race, and afterwards it's Blake Shelton. All coming up as a part of Hy-Vee IndyCar weekend at Iowa Speedway. We're ready to go back to racing once again, but there's a problem with Scott McLaughlin, who was running 4th, but we're still going green. Joseph Newgarden leading the back, battles for 2nd. Pato Award trying to find some room on Will Power, but around the outside there's Alex Palou in that green and black car finding 3rd.
That's the penalty of shooting down low there when the others are running high. You had to check up. Did Award as Palou goes sailing on by. It's Team Penske 1-2, and Palou, last year's champion, getting strong late in this race.
But that wasn't without its issues. A big wiggle from Palou as we see the issue with the 3 is a missing wheel nut on the right rear.
That happened to Will Power here a 3 years ago. I can remember a wheel starting to fall off.
And he'll go 2 laps down almost certainly here, maybe more, as the right rear tire changer has to go to the spare wheel nut. Meanwhile, Rinus VeeKay and Jimmy Johnson back at it.
Jimmy Johnson has been fighting for the top 5 throughout most of this day, battling for 5th right now. Up ahead, the Carvana onboard looks to Rinus VeeKay.
I mean, obviously, there's going to be... I'm just thinking about tires. I'm thinking about tomorrow, the number of tires these drivers get. Scott McLaughlin losing another set there. If we have a caution-filled race tomorrow, some of these teams are going to start running out of tires, Townsend.
Well, they should be able to make it to the end on fuel, but with the number of laps they have to run on the tires at the end of this thing, it is going to be such a handful for all of these front runners. We're early on in the stint. This is like liquid courage. You get fresh Firestones. You are brave, ready to battle, making moves all over the place. Another 20 laps. You're kind of just hanging on, trying to manage to the end.
Dylan.
And Alex Palou runs 3rd. Remember, after their test a few weeks ago, he was not very confident coming in here. Just didn't feel like they had a great balance on the race car. And he told us earlier this week he struggles on ovals because he just doesn't know what he wants the car to feel like and what he needs it to do. But they've tweaked on it all weekend thanks to Alex's feedback. And now he's racing inside the top 3.
And he's looking for 2nd to the inside, side by side with Will Power. And right ahead of them is the leader, Joseph Newgarden, in that white and black Hitachi car. They're still stuck together. Power prevails for the moment, and then looks to the outside for the lead.
All 3 of them spread out, trying to find some semblance of clean air. Joseph Newgarden making a defensive move into 3 for the first time, making Will go to the high line. He holds him off for now, but Palou's really making the low line work at this stage of the tire life better than most guys we've seen.
A lot of very subtle fades coming out of the number 2 car, Joseph Newgarden. He knows how to get around Iowa. He knows how to defend around Iowa, even if it's a teammate behind. I'm going to guess that Will Power is going to jump on the radio and ask for a little more help, a little more respect from his teammate in terms of moving around and taking the air off the Verizon car.
Yeah, I mean, a couple laps ago, he was running the lane that Will Power wanted. That was giving Alex Palou the clean air down on the bottom. It was almost a hindrance to Will, his teammate in front. So maybe playing a little bit better now as we go back to the VeeKay Johnson battle for the top 5. Jimmy's still loving that super high line. You see Rinus up in lane 2. Jimmie Johnson's just trying to get the right side of his wing out into that clean air. Rinus is going to go all the way to the bottom. That's going to allow Jimmy some time to roll around here. Look at the momentum he's going to have coming off of 4.
It's pretty cool. Johnson just sort of slides up to that high line, and when he gets all that air on his car, he just gets right back after the throttle with all the downforce available. Meanwhile, Simon Pagenaud been on the struggle bus today as he comes to pit lane.
He was already down a lap, and Jimmy is looking to the outside.
Some questionable definitions of clear right now, guys, from the spotters of these two. But Jimmy not being pushed around. He's going to have some big momentum coming off of 2 here if he can stay side by side with him. Oh, Rinus is really not giving him any room.
Super impressive by both to maintain their line and not make contact. VK not giving up, and he hangs on to 5th for the moment.
Jimmy's making me nervous. He's awfully aggressive, right up on the edge where the grip goes from good to nothing.
But at this stage of the tire life, Rinus has a lot of grip in those Firestones. He can afford to do that. Jimmy's taking better care of his tires by being up in that second lane. So fast forward, 10, 15 laps down, and we could see these guys swapping positions.
Reminds me so much of Texas earlier this year when Jimmie Johnson learned in the first couple of stints and then got really aggressive and used all that knowledge to good use as he has a big moment.
Here we go. Johnson to the outside. Can he clear him this time? VK still battling in that orange car on the bottom.
VK's got a car low. That's Simon Pagenaud coming out of the pits. That allows Jimmy to get it done. So VK getting boxed in.
Jimmie Johnson inside the top 5. Best IndyCar finish, 6th earlier this season on his first oval at Texas Motor Speedway. Back up front, Joseph Newgarden by about 3 car lengths on his teammate. Will Power lurking right behind is Alex Palou. To put it mildly, it's been a tumultuous couple of weeks for Alex Palou, who was announced to drive next year for 2 different teams on the same day. His current team, Chip Ganassi Racing and Arrow McLaren SP, or more accurately, McLaren Racing, not defining where he would drive. It's going to be determined by the attorneys where he ends up and how this is settled.
Last weekend in Toronto, it wasn't a great start. Had a problem in qualifying, a practice crash, but salvaged a top 6. A great race for him. And now, after having a test here, he left very unhappy. Didn't think he was going to be competitive. Was able to sleep on it, look at the data, really improve. And now, between some great driving and some great strategy from the Chip Ganassi Racing squad, seeing himself up in the top 3.
James Palou's another driver that came to you for advice as a 2-time winner. What did he want to know?
He didn't know what he wanted to know. That was the problem. It's like Dylan said, he's not sure what to expect from the car. What I told him here is that you're used to big, fast ovals like the Speedway at Indianapolis, like Texas Motor Speedway. They're smooth, they're flowing. Here, it's bumpy, it's rough. It feels more like a street circuit than it does an oval. In fact, the damper traces look bumpier here than they do at Detroit. It's just not going to feel like an oval. You have to accept the car is going to take the bumps. It's going to take getting beaten around, bottoming, all these things you are taught to loathe on an oval. You've just got to accept that the car's going to take it. He's had a lot more confidence since practice. Qualifying went pretty well, but now in the race is when he's really shining. It's great to see.
Colton Herta with that, we think maybe electrical problem. 6, now 7 laps down, so he gets out of the way for the leaders. They're scooting through. Pato O'Ward running 4th, and that orange and black Arrow McLaren SP will be the next one through.
Boy, this battle between Newgarden and Power, I think, is just going to continue all the way to the end, especially as Newgarden starts to get to faster lap cars. The next one up the road, his teammate, Scott McLaughlin. So that'll be fascinating to see what happens with Team Penske.
Nice move from Romain Grosjean on the inside of Scott Dixon through 3 and 4. Grosjean really having a strong day. It's been a struggle for the Andretti Autosport squad since they rolled off here, but he's really just come to life here.
I mean, I've been watching Grosjean all weekend. He's been the best of the Andretti Autosport cars. Never raced here before in IndyCar. Is it just a case of he doesn't know what he doesn't know and it's just going to go for it and he's hanging on? I mean, I think it's more than that. He's really putting great technique to good use. His engineer, Olivier Boisson, giving him a race car that he seems to be able to drive in just about any condition today, Dave.
And Boisson told me that on Friday they actually chased a problem that they weren't aware of. Something was wrong with the car. They went and made changes to make the setup better, and when they got the car back later, they'd found that they were chasing a gremlin that they didn't know about. And so when qualifying came, he came back and said we just put it where it was best for Romain, and he did a great job qualifying, and he's a great car today.
They really did a good job in qualifying, considering they had that issue in practice. That was an unknown issue, so he was driving a car that, I mean, by his words, was trying to kill him. Then you go straight out into qualifying Townsend first thing in the morning. Yeah, hey man, let's go faster than you've ever been around this place with a car you're not even sure you can trust. So great job from him in qualifying, and he just keeps improving.
Nobody's ever doubted his bravery, that's for sure. As Newgarden continues to circulate, now he's caught lap cars. That's Dalton Kellett 1 lap down. Takuma Sato 4 laps down. So Newgarden will be on the radio pleading, hey, I need some help here. Get those guys out of my way. 50 laps to go, Kev.
The restart came on lap 173. They can make it on fuel, but it is going to be a handful towards the end of this race. Safe to say, if there's a caution at any time, no matter when, everyone's coming in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the lap times. Nobody here is trying to stretch that one out. They're all going full bore because they know the tire situation. Someone's going to pit, and they are going to have the advantage. So even if the yellow doesn't come out, I think we're going to see everybody back to pit lane one more time. The question is, when do you do it? How early do you take that gamble and jump in for the new tires?
I think for some of the cars that are on the tail end of the lead lap, like Rossi, Harvey, Malukas, maybe you gamble. You go for the undercut now, knowing that the leader is struggling in lap traffic. It's going to back the whole field up. Maybe you go for it and roll the dice.
And then you're hoping it stays green.
Then you're hoping it stays green, but based on what we've had so far, if it stays green pretty long, you're going to get a yellow. Someone's going to wreck and not be able to hang on to their race car. So I think that's what the leaders are banking on, is a late yellow.
But what's amazing with all the side-by-side racing we've seen, all the 2-lane action, the 2 incidents that we've had have been single car crashes. They've been issues just with cars losing balance and hitting the wall by themselves. It hasn't been from drivers getting into one another. So I don't know, man. I think we could see this race go green from here on out.
We are inside the final 50 of the first of a doubleheader weekend. Hy-Vee IndyCar weekend at Iowa Speedway with NBC. Back at the HyVeeDeals.com 250 at Iowa Speedway. May see final pit stops any moment. Joseph Newgarden right now in charge by 1.5 seconds on his teammate Will Power. Pato O'Ward, Alex Palou, Rinus VeeKay, top 5. And many are crying, Hinch, you know it, asking, I need some fresh Firestones. I can't hang on anymore.
Cry all you want. It's down to the team. They're going to be listening to the driver feedback. They're going to be looking at where you'll come out on track, because if you're not coming out into some clean air, you mitigate some of that advantage, but there really is no clean air with a track with this many cars on it.
I mean, you just do the math. It's 34 seconds for a pit stop. It's 20 seconds to do a lap. So you can hang on. Much better to stay on the racetrack and pit under yellow if it comes, or just hang on and run to the end. But it is frightening because the car is just squirming around. Any little disturbance, as you see Alex Palou hanging on by a fingernail right now. Let's listen to some radio.
Watch your momentum on the 3, clear by 5. That's all right, a lot of races to go. You still got to get around that 3. No pressure.
I'm losing a ton of grip.
You're losing a ton of grip. 36 to go. Let's pit. It's Pato O'Ward now all over Will Power for 2nd place. Will's going to roll the top. There's a car in front of Pato taking a little bit of air away, but he's got still a good run off of 2. He's going to go again into 3.
That's Kyle Kirkwood in front of them, the A.J. Foyt Racing Sexton Properties, number 14. O'Ward still on the bottom. Looks like he might have the position. Power's not ready to give it up. Side by side for 2nd.
Depends on what Kirkwood does. Kirkwood goes low. That gives the advantage to Will Power, so that lap car completely dictates in a side-by-side battle who might win.
And now Power says, I want the bottom 2. Takes even more air off the nose of Pato O'Ward's car. And you see that gap open up. Goes from right on his gearbox to about a 3-car length difference.
Don't screw yourself up turning it around. You'll get him eventually.
Great coaching.
There it goes.
Stay patient.
Wow.
And 1 corner later, patience delivers to the high side.
Be patient is code for let's go now.
Yeah.
But the guy that enjoyed that the most right there in that white and black Hitachi car. Yes, he's dealing with traffic, but Joseph Newgarden picked up another 0.5 second.
But this is exactly where Joseph is so incredible at this racetrack. You saw when the top 3 were in clean air, you had the top 3 covered by a blanket. It was maybe a 0.5 second covering all 3 of them. As soon as they get to traffic, his ability to read the traffic, position his car properly, and clear those lap cars is second to none. And now it's a 2.5 second gap back to Pato O'Ward, who's running 2nd.
All right, let's watch the racing, and let's also get some updated stories as we go acts through the field. We start with Dave Burns.
Kevin, more than once today, we have referred to Joseph Newgarden as the favorite for this race. Led 1,100 laps coming in. He'll push 1,300 if he wins this race. The next closest guy, 260. I asked him if he liked the title. He said, I'm indifferent to it. Joseph Newgarden just trying to win again at Iowa, where he's been so good 3 times previous. Pato O'Ward told me 75 points behind in the championship coming in. For me, it's got to be win or bust. You kind of saw him race that way against Will Power moments ago, Dylan.
And Dave, Will Power hasn't touched the race car most of the entire weekend. They've been really, really happy with it. And again, right now, just trying to hang on here as much as they can in prime position for an undercut if that happens. Ray run third right now, just trying to manage the tires, as is Alex Palou behind him. You heard him say a little bit ago, losing a lot of grip behind the wheel of that 10 car. They're doing the same thing here, but remember, came in here just expecting to try to finish in the top 10. They're having a much better day than that. Behind him, same story, Rinus VeeKay. He got told a few laps ago, save your tires. We don't know how long we're gonna have to run out here, so make them last as long as you can. Nice day going for Rinus. He's carrying the flag for Ed Carpenter Racing. And how about Jimmy Johnson? Can't talk enough about him. He's taken all he's learned on the ovals this year at Texas and Indianapolis, applied it for potentially a huge result today as he runs 6th.
He's got a lot of understeer mid-corner, James. You see that right hand almost at 90 degrees of steering input as he struggles trying to find the front grip. We talked about this in the break. You can lose either the front or the back end. Typically, once it goes, it never comes back to you. You've got to stay ahead of the car on your adjustments.
And this is a crucial time for Joseph Newgarden. Both lanes are occupied. He's kind of sitting in the middle there to get some clean air, but you got to wait for one of these cars to fall in line before he can actually make a pass and clear them. This is an opportunity for Pato O'Ward, who's got the gap down to 0.7 of a second from 2.5 seconds. You see him right there, the orange and black machine. 1 lap car in between them. That was very costly for Joseph Newgarden.
So that first one was Helio Castroneves. Now there's Castroneves with O'Ward going by.
Now it's Alexander Rossi in front of Newgarden, and Rossi is on, no, he's 1 lap down as they come to the line. So Rossi trying to hold off Newgarden to stay on the lead lap, has to give it up.
I was just looking at Joseph's onboard compared to Jimmy's and seeing that hand position you were talking about. You know, if Jimmy's right hand was up at noon on the clock, I think we can see Joseph Newgarden's cruising there at 2 o'clock. He's barely turning that wheel. That thing is absolutely hooked up. And let's get a little bit of radio from the two as we ride on board with this Hitachi onboard.
What's this McLaren coming up on me?
No, that's the 5 car. That's second place. That's the one I'm saying, making a living on the high side.
He looks like he's on fresh.
Same as us.
Oh, a little bit of anxiety if you're the leader, like, wait, well, what's that McLaren car? That's P2, and they're on the same tires you're on.
Sounds a little similar to 2018. Joseph had a radio message when we went by him saying, hey, what's he doing? No, he's on your strategy, bud. Go get after it. So some flashbacks for Joseph Newgarden, but he's still very much in control of this race with 22 laps to go.
And this is the battle for 6. There's Johnson getting awfully high in the gray. James, if he's any higher, he's going to be in the wall on the marbles.
I mean, he's just the only car running that high. My worry is that it's just not clean up there. And look how much ground Romain Grosjean closes up in that clean air.
And if Grosjean doesn't run all the way low here, that's going to push Jimmy even higher.
It's also the first time Romain Grosjean has raced here at Iowa Speedway. There's Scott Dixon, most recent winner, got number 52 last week at Toronto in that orange and blue PNC bank car. He tied Mario Andretti for 2nd all-time on the wins list and got him back in the championship hunt. He's running in 8th. The Auto Nation on board with Grosjean, ahead to Johnson.
You see him trying to run in the wheel tracks at Jimmy Johnson. That's never going to be the fastest way when the bottom's clear like that. But sometimes your car just isn't quite handling well enough to go where you should put it. Roman's probably working the tools in the car. He's got the front and rear roll bars that adjust the stiffness across those axles, and now he's got a good run down the inside.
But man, Jimmy is so comfortable floating it in with big speed on the high line, and it causes Grosjean some indecision, a little bit of hesitation to the inside. He's not sure exactly what's going to happen with the 48.
And on board with Dixon now, the PNC Bank on board. You can see him just catching that thing on the way in, Townsend. With these guys running side by side, almost no clean air on the 9. He's just barely hanging on to that thing. Jimmy.
48 responds, that huge radius, the highest line on the track right now. Jimmy Johnson making it work, holding off Grosjean. Now it looks like Grosjean should be able to slide up the track and get by.
It'll be interesting to see what line Grosjean takes. He hangs it up in that second lane. Jimmy tries to stay with him, but Scott all in the bottom in that open air. He's going to go right by Jimmy Johnson here. That'll push Johnson down to 8th if he can complete the pass. Grosjean sort of sitting in the middle of the racetrack, giving both of the cars behind him half a wing.
Now Jimmy putting the same technique to use on his teammates, staying high, getting a good run off the corners. This is stock car 101.
It really is. Scott's really good on the bottom of 1 and 2, though, able to clear Jimmy Johnson there. And yeah, it is. This is much more like the racecraft you'd see in a Cup car, and something Jimmy's very familiar with, this level of tire degradation. As Joseph Newgarden, leader, clears a huge amount of lap traffic. But look, 2 cars in front of him, guys. It's Marcus Ericsson. Marcus is all the way down in 10th now after fighting for the lead not that long ago. It's really sort of come unhinged for the 8.
Well, you'd be seeing the difference of who is best on the older Firestones and who cannot make them last. Joseph Newgarden has been able to do that, and we wondered, could you make it to the end? We're kind of past the point of no return. The only way anyone's stopping is if there's a caution soon, at least as far as the leaders are concerned.
And this is an opportunity for Pato O'Ward. If he wants to win this race, he needs to pounce right now as Newgarden is trapped in traffic and try to make some magic happen. You can see O'Ward in the orange and black car. He's struggling also to figure out how to get through the lappers.
And look how much ground Will Power has lost as well. It is a 2-car race at the moment, if it stays green, between Joseph Newgarden and Pato O'Ward.
Oh, Pato was able to get by. Newgarden still trapped there behind Ericsson's going to have to check up again here at the exit of 2.
It's all about Ericsson's lane choice here.
Pato O'Ward almost lost it coming off of 2. His right rear was up in the gray. That was close.
And even Newgarden ahead still has several more cars to navigate before he has clean track, and it won't even last very long. Here's
That's
O'Ward's
what I'm talking about with O'Ward off 2.
Oh, that's end of a stint, guys. That right rear is just getting very tired coming to 10 to go. You just got to hang on to it. These guys have done a great job extending this stint, taking care of those tires, avoiding that last stop.
O'Ward still working to clear Lundgaard and then Callum Eilert. Those 2 rookies doing a great job.
Just listen how much Pato O'Ward is rolling out of the throttle there. These lap times are just falling so much.
Newgarden just lapped 8th place, Jimmy Johnson.
Let's look at what Joseph Newgarden has done here since 2014. 21st to 2nd, finished 2nd again, 1, 6th, 4th, 1st, 5th, 1st, and maybe on his way to a 4th. And this is a battle for 3rd right now with Will Power and Alex Palou. Palou trying to get that position, and they've lost mega ground to the leaders.
You can see those white gloves from Palou through the aero screen. He's driving this thing like it's a dirt track, James.
Yeah, but the number 10 for Chip Ganassi Racing tends to have good luck when it does alternate liveries. You got Ridgeline on the side of that car this weekend. Normally it's the NTT car, the blue and white car. Now it's the green and black car, and he's on course for a podium if he can get around Will Power here, which is way more than he would have expected coming into this weekend. Joseph Newgarden, 201 laps led on the day, 1,150 career laps.
There goes Palou.
But Palou's got traffic in front of him on his line. Will Power, with that clean air, is able to roll the high side.
Connor Daly in firm control of who podiums right now based on where he runs his car. The Bitnile, the blue and gold car's a lap down, so Daly exits high. See what he does down in 1 and 2.
You got to wonder if someone from Chevrolet's on the 20 stand saying, hey, go wherever Will doesn't want to go.
Palou almost lost it. Huge slide back there. He'll have to give up a position to Rinus VeeKay. Palou almost in the fence.
Great catch.
Focus here, focus.
You said it, Townsend. He was starting to drive the thing like a dirt car. That right rear is gone. Look at him just hacking away at the steering wheel, hanging on. 5 laps to go for the 10. Oh, another one.
Still fighting it. Look at that. I mean, completely crossed up. And it's going to be the longest 4 laps of Alex Palou's life just to bring this car home in one piece.
He's got Scott Dixon right behind him, his teammate, but that's the last car on the lead lap.
Yeah, the leader is right there as well. Joseph Newgarden is not too far behind Dixon. Just 6 on the lead lap, 3 laps to go. Dixon trying to get another spot.
Dixon has a really good run here. He might cross over and go low. No, he stays high.
Pelot's just driving wounded at this point. He kind of needs to bring it home. Dixon's going to go by. The leader's next. If anything, that's going to save Pelot from having to do one extra lap. He probably wants Joseph to go by at this point.
If Newgarden laps Pelot's going to be like, wait a second, I was just behind that guy on the last restart.
Rinus VeeKay now thinking maybe he wants to get himself up on the podium as we see Joseph Newgarden putting 6th place a lap down.
That is soul-crushing.
And Joseph Newgarden coming to the white flag. Ryan Hunter-Reay, a 3-time winner. Same as Joseph Newgarden. He's got a chance to top him here today.
What a terrific drive. Got the jump on his teammate when it counted, and then just managed this thing.
Through 3 and 4, Joseph Newgarden can climb within whispering distance of the championship. Win number 4 in the season. Win number 4 in Iowa. Joseph Newgarden wins the first half of the Hy-Vee IndyCar weekend doubleheader.
Yeah, great job, crew. Great job. Wheel 8 there. Wheel 8.
Almost emotionless with that one. He's like, well, yeah, it's Iowa. Of course we won. What do you expect?
Somebody deed this guy some farmland. This guy's the king of corn country.
It's just incredible as we see the podium filter out. Pato O'Ward in a very strong P2. Will Power 3. Rinus VeeKay in 4th. And Scott Dixon with Chip Ganassi Racing brings it home in 5th. And let's see a few celebratory donuts. It may be corn country, but I think we're going to see some donuts here.
I don't know. If you've got a race car like this, you want to protect it with kid gloves. You still got some work to do at places like St. Louis, Indy, and his hometown in Nashville.
And tomorrow, too.
Yeah,
more importantly.
I forgot. We got to stick around. There's more to come.
So,
Newgarden has now completed every lap in the last 9 races here at Iowa. He is a 4-time winner. We're going to hear from the winner and more coming up in just a moment as Hy-Vee IndyCar weekend continues at Iowa. What's great about this weekend is we're only halfway done. We'll do it again tomorrow and add 50 laps for the Hy-Vee Salute to Farmers 300, 3 o'clock. We'll have a pre-race show tomorrow on NBC. And concerts galore all weekend, 3 of 4 to go, including Gwen Stefani and Blake Shelton tomorrow. Time now for the Children's Miracle Network moment of the race.
Well, right here on the start, Newgarden getting it done, passing Will Power, and never look back. This guy's led so many laps here, it's ridiculous.
We want to talk about how many laps. Joseph Newgarden has led 1,358 laps at Iowa. The rest of the field combined, 1,213. So he knows his way around this place.
It was mega hot today, 99 degrees. Joseph Newgarden has climbed out of the car, and Dave Burns is down there.
208 of 250 laps led by this man right here. I'd say that was a pretty sweet day in Iowa.
Yeah, I'm glad I wore this cool shirt. It was pretty nice and easy in there, actually, to be honest with you. Felt cool today, and this car was good. I was surprised at how hard these guys were pushing on these restarts. You know, this was a long game day, and I think O'Ward definitely looked like he was the toughest competitor today to beat. But I'm really proud of our team. Obviously, Hitachi and Team Chevy showing up here with a really good piece. And, you know, I was disappointed after qualifying. I just hate losing. And, you know, I felt like we had enough to get the job done, and we didn't, and motivated me. I knew we had a car here today to win this race, and in front of this great crowd. Unbelievable job by Hy-Vee. You know, they're throwing concerts all weekend. They're doing everything they can amenity-wise for people here. So this has been a great event, and it's one of my favorite tracks. So to be able to win here again, it's always very special.
Joseph, you told me before this race, we are in the game for the championship, all right? You gained some points today. You're looking strong. How do you feel about it now?
Yeah, I feel good. I mean, we've been in the game. It's just, you know, not where we want to be in the game. I think, you know, if we were ahead by a good bit, that'd be a lot better position to be in at this point of the year. But, you know, we're in the fight. We're relatively there. We just got to figure out how to have, you know, more consistency. It's either winning or it's going sideways on our weekend. So I know we can do better than this. And it's not that we haven't been doing good. I just know consistently we can do better than what we've been doing. But we'll get there. I always have faith every weekend I show up with Team Penske.
4th win for Joseph Newgarden at the Iowa Speedway.
And it impacts the championship. It's essentially a double points weekend, and Joseph Newgarden tied for 4th coming into the day. He was 44 points back, now within 15.
I mean, look at Scott Dixon. It's 38 points now, was 44 coming in here. He's just like a quiet little burglar snooping around your backyard, waiting to pounce as we get to the championship run down the stretch.
And look at Alexander Rossi, +2 on the day, despite having a tough break. Didn't have the car he wanted, but still brought it home 13th. And a couple positions up in the championship. Dave Burns, who you have?
That would be second place Pato Award, who told me before the day started, for me in the championship, it's got to be win or bust. That looked like you were almost headed toward win. How do you feel about the day?
Yeah, man, I was pushing Joseph there in the end. We didn't quite have it, but I have to say the car was really good. We didn't really start off as strong, but we kept making the car better and better every single stint. And there in the end, I just think we took a little bit out of them, getting by Will and getting by Alex. And getting by the lappers to try and catch the number 2. So, yeah, we'll see what we can make better for tomorrow. But yeah, the car was really good, and a P2 is really good for where we are in the championship and for our weekend. And tomorrow we start, I think, 8th. But yeah, that won't be an issue. It's all about having a good race car here. And yeah, I got to thank Arrow, fellow Mission, Team Chevy. Yeah, it's good to be here and excited for tomorrow.
And with the overnight, will you have a way to make it better, including maybe the restart gear?
Yeah, I mean, I knew they were playing games there in the restart, but then I found a way to do it without losing any ground. But yeah, on the first one, we lost a little bit of ground. I think Marcus got us, but yeah, we'll be better tomorrow.
We'll see what they come back with tomorrow, Dylan.
And Rinus VeeKay comes home in the 4th spot, cooling off here with his ice pack on his chest. I heard you say at the end, man, you wanted to push, but it was hard, right? You had to somehow just make this thing last. How'd you do it?
Yeah, we had to take the tires super far, and yeah, it was tough. I was trying to save tires, you know. Doing the high line, driving the high line will save tires, but I just couldn't. Really, when I did that, I got super loose, and so I just, you know, made sure the tires didn't scrap that much, and yeah, then, and in the end, I capitalized of, you know, other guys pushing hard and tires really going off, so I could pass Alex, who was really on edge there, and it got very close with Will, but I could have probably pushed a little bit harder that last lap, but you know, do I want to be in the wall, or is 4th good for Saturday? We got another race tomorrow.
That's right, 50 more laps tomorrow, and a smart drive for Rinus VeeKay. He's 4th today, Dave.
3rd place for Will Power on a day where you led 23 laps. You have something that you can think of that you can work harder on your teammate for tomorrow?
Yeah, we were definitely strong there before it went yellow. Then on that next restart, I pushed so hard to keep guys behind. I really had a couple of big yaw moments. And then the rear just never recovered. I ended up like maxed out on my tools, so that was just a matter of pushing. I mean, it was either lose positions or really push in the dirty air of Joseph, but I was really stoked to finish 3rd, like to hang on like that. Man, the tires were so gone at the end, it's crazy. It's kind of fun, like you're sliding these things a lot, but yeah, it's good effort for the Chevy Verizon 5G car. I mean, another top 3, you don't look back on those as bad days, so good day.
Fun in a podium sort of way, Kevin.
So don't forget here, when we're done in just a few minutes, you can flip over to USA. The Xfinity race has started today. Also, the Cup race tomorrow from Pocono is on USA. And for IndyCar fans, you might want to tune in to check out Sage Karam, a really special weekend, racing back at Pocono for the first time since that tragic crash back in 2015 that took the life of Justin Wilson. So very cathartic for Sage Karam this weekend. Nate Ryan is down on pit road with Jimmy Johnson, who thrilled us today.
Fun early. You raced in the lead. You raced with Rinus VeeKay really hard. Just tell us about what I'm sure was an eventful day finishing 11th.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the spin in a Cup car, you can always hang your left front tire on the paint. You might remember at Richmond, we just sit there and chase the paint, and it works. It doesn't work in an IndyCar. I just figured that out in that opening run. And then in general, I mean, at the first half of the race, I had some lines working. Nobody else was really working yet. And then the spotters are awfully good here and queued up every driver I was catching, how to defend and block. And before I knew it, the lines that I had working were kind of run off. And then I tried to find some new stuff. And that last run, we just went so far. I burned the right rear tire off the car. But still a very strong performance. Super happy for everybody here at Chip Ganassi Racing. Thankful to support from Carvana, the American Legion, everybody on this program. It was really a lot of fun today to be up there racing.
You didn't lose any of your aggression after that lap 16 spin. That battle with VK was amazing. Like, how do you keep your foot in it after losing it early?
Yeah, I just think instinctively I tried to run the painted line like I would in a cup car, and as soon as I touched it, I was like, oh, you idiot. Why'd you do that? And thankfully I kept it out of the wall, was able to bump start it once I got going on the front stretch and pointed in the right direction. But that was just a lot of fun. Had the outside lane working, on a lot of those restarts, making up spots, racing hard with the regulars up front. That was a lot of fun.
All right, he put on a show today, that Jimmy Johnson.
He ran in the top 5 a lot of the day, finished in 11th. We're not done here. When we go off air just a couple of minutes later, join us again on Peacock for our post-race show with more interviews, more stories, and more analysis, getting you set for race 2 of the weekend coming up for Hy-Vee IndyCar weekend. This was a lot of fun, and I'm quite excited that we're not done yet.
Yeah, I mean, we got to do it all again tomorrow. 50 extra laps. It's going to be another great show. See if anyone can have anything for Joseph Newgarden. I don't know, man. It looks tough to beat that guy. He wasn't even sweating at the end.
Great racing and a full weekend of partying with Florida Georgia Line setting up there on the front straightaway. We're going to be here for a while and enjoy this thing.
Florida Georgia Line is coming up tomorrow. If you're in the area, it's supposed to be much more comfortable. It was almost 100 today. Low to mid 80s tomorrow for Gwen Stefani before the race, Blake Shelton after the race. 3 o'clock on NBC, about a 3:30 Eastern time green flag. So that's 2:30 local time tomorrow. And the championship, the top 5 are now separated by 38.
It's crazy how close it is. I mean, we've talked about it since the beginning of the season. You talked about it at the top of the show, Townsend, and with 2 races here, we saw Marcus Ericsson go from 8th to 1st by winning the Indy 500 with a double points win. So a huge swing could happen here, and we've seen it getting just tighter and tighter.
And these boys exhausted and probably saying, hey, tomorrow we've got to go 50 more laps at Iowa. Not quite as hot, but a longer race.
Check your social media feed for ice baths and much more. How do drivers recover and get ready? Tim McGraw got the party started today. Will Power was able to keep cool enough. And we saw fantastic action today at Iowa Speedway, the world's fastest short track. And we do it again. And 50 more laps coming up tomorrow on Peacock and on NBC. Don't forget, Peacock post-race show starts in just a couple of moments. Thanks for joining us for the HyVeeDeals.com 250. Congratulations, Joseph Newgarden. Thanks for joining us on Peacock for Hy-Vee IndyCar weekend. After the HyVeeDeals.com 250 won by Joseph Newgarden, Kevin Lee, James Hinchcliffe, Townsend Bell. Hinch championship tightens up just a little bit more.
It sure does, man. I mean, a big gain, obviously, for Joseph Newgarden with the problems that Marcus Ericsson had in that last stint. I mean, Marcus was right up there for so much of the day. It's unfortunate he wasn't able to claw back more and ended up in the 8th position, but plus 2 spots, down to minus 15. It's crazy to me, though, that after 11 races, Joseph Newgarden has won a third of the races in the season so far, and he's still not leading the championship. It just goes to his interview where he said, it's kind of feast or famine for us. He's had a lot of feast, but a little bit of famine as well. And our reigning champion, Mr. Alex Palou, has found Dylan Welch.
And he has found 6th place on the day here at Iowa, race number 1. Now, after your test, I know you guys have gotten better since then, but you were pretty optimistic that maybe a top 10 was maybe the best you guys could do. You ran much better than that today. How would you evaluate the day?
Yeah, it's been a lot of up and down today. Qualifying wasn't as strong as we wanted, but then we got some good restarts, made a bunch of overtakes, which was good. The car was quite good. Not as good as probably the top 3, top 4, but we got ourselves up there with the crew that made amazing pit stops and some overtakes again. But it was a shame. I thought I was going to be able to pass Power there, but I think he got a little bit more experience than me, and I was just burning my tires and just had no more tires at the end to finish 4th. So a shame that we lost those 2 places on the last 3 laps, but overall I think it was a good day for the number 10 Ridgeline car.
Well, how tough is that? I mean, you're obviously trying to advance your position as far as you can, but everybody's in your ear telling you got to save, you got to save, you got to save. So what's that balance like at the end of a stint trying to make it last as long as you guys did?
Yeah, I think I had some more issues on tire deck than everybody I was racing. I mean, than the 2, the 5, and the 12 at the beginning. So I dropped, and I was like, okay, that's good. I'm fighting with the other guys. But then suddenly I catch a 12 power, and then I had to attack. I had to try it, right? Like it was only 6 laps left, and the podium was right there. So we had to try. I'm still new on short ovals. Learned a lot, had some fun. And we'll go back at it tomorrow. Hopefully we're on victory lane tomorrow.
That's it, exactly. 6th today, but learned a lot and going to get to apply it after a night's sleep and back at it again tomorrow, Dave.
Dylan Scott Dixon raced to a top 5 today without the aid of a cool suit, but he was wise enough to walk over to the cooling unit here for our interview, which I really appreciate the veteran move there. How did you do it? Because you were one of the cars that came in early on lap 19 and then made a lot out of that.
Yeah, it was an interesting day. We had some issues kind of on the restarts. I wasn't doing a very good job. Kind of got stuck on the bottom and lost some spots. So at that point, we were like, let's just grab some tires, and I'm sure we can pass our way back up. And it worked out well. I think we got up to 7th in that run. Had a bit of a funky one on the middle stint, and we were just in a very small window. 1 minute we were loose, 1 minute we were really understeery. At the end there, we tried to use a bit of both lanes, and actually worked out really well. So, good recovery by the team. Everybody in the Penske back, number 9, did a hell of a job, and Honda is always doing a tremendous job.
Talk about the lanes to choose here, because they are a little bit different. It's supposed to be 2 to 3 wide racing with a progressive banking. So, what do you think the ticket will be for tomorrow?
For me, it was the high line. I think towards the end, the low line kind of came applicable when nobody was using it, so it was kind of clean air. Jimmy kind of had his own line. He had like lane 3 or 4, which was, he did an amazing job today, and he was really fun to watch because he was constantly trying stuff, which maybe I need to do a little more of that. But yeah, at the end it looked like him, Grosjean, and the 10 car just kind of lost the rear of the car, and we were able to truck on a little bit. So this place is always a ton of fun. I think it put on hopefully a great show. There's always a ton of passing going on, and it's hard work for the drivers.
Very entertaining. From 13th to 5th today for Scott Dixon. Let's go to Nate Ryan.
Points leader Marcus Ericsson finishes 8th today. Marcus, you ran up to 2nd. You battled for the lead with Will Power, Joseph Newgarden, and then I know you got a little bit up in the marbles, and it didn't seem like the car was the same after that.
Yeah, it was before that, to be honest. I think we had the first 100 or so laps was amazing. The number 8 Husky Chocolate Honda was really, really good to drive, and we went all the way from 12th to fighting for the lead there with Joseph. But on that restart, on that set of tires, the balance really shifted from early in the race, and it was a lot more oversteery. So I struggled to sort of keep up with Joseph and Will on that stint, and then on lapping one of the cars, I just got up in the gray in 1-2. We got 3 wide and pushed up the gray, and I managed to stay out of the wall, but obviously that dropped us back to like 10th or something. But yeah, good to recover to P8. But yeah, a bit disappointed. I think we had definitely speed to be fighting for a win or at least a podium today.
So you started 12th, but you made a lot of gains in the opening laps. You're starting 15th tomorrow. Does what you did in the opening laps give you a little bit of confidence for tomorrow, especially with you still being in the points lead and thinking about the championship?
Yeah, 100%. I think we showed today that we had the speed to take it to the Penske guys, and I think that's very promising. I think, like I said, the first 100 or so laps, we were pretty much the fastest car out there, overtaking cars everywhere and just catching up on the leader. So do that tomorrow. A couple of more spots to overtake, but we can do that, and we're going to go out and fight again tomorrow.
All right, encouraging day for points leader Marcus Ericsson. Let's go to Dylan Welch.
And Nate David Malukas finishes 14th today in his first trip to Iowa. So everybody's talked about the heat, how you guys are having to manage that. Everybody's got cool suits, you got cold water, but your experience today doing that was a little bit eventful. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was very hot, but realistically, once you're going, it's fine. It was just, you really feel it under yellows, and so I was drinking a lot of water, let alone the water was hot, so I'm just drinking hot water. And I just drank so much, and there's a lot going on in my head that I kind of just choked on it, and I was like crying, I was coughing and sneezing and like tears running and snot just going everywhere. And at the same time, like we're going green next time by, and I was just, I was very flustered for that restart. It was funny.
Well, thankfully you recovered nicely and got a top 15 out of today, but what was it like out there balancing the tire deg, the traffic, everybody else on different strategies? How was that for you?
Yeah, Iowa, it's definitely chaotic, especially when the first pit cycle starts and everybody's on new tires and old tires and everybody's just flying around. It was kind of chaos. I had no idea what was going on. Some of the pit crews said they had no idea what was going on. Yeah, I mean, that's what makes Iowa so special. But it was a struggle from the first stint to the second stint to the third stint. The track, I don't know if it was the track or the tires, maybe from the qualifying tires to a new set, it drastically changed so much. So first stint we struggled with a lot of understeer, and then second stint was like driving on ice skates. Like, it was very scary, and again, I was like so focused, gripping on the wheel and trying not to spin out. But last stint, last couple laps, we managed to go forward and actually started catching up on the last 10 laps. It seemed like we did a good job saving tires and did a good few passes.
Yeah, they were one of the cars at the end that was going forward, passing cars, not going backwards. So good day for David Malukas. He finishes 14th today.
And I think it was a good day for all the rookies. Devlin DeFrancesco finished in 17th. Kyle Kirkwood from the back finishes in 15th. Malukas there in 14th. Callum Ilott was running inside the top 10 most of the day, and on the lead lap, he finishes 12th. And the birthday boy, Christian Lundgaard, 21 today. Almost stayed on the lead lap. He finishes 10th.
Yeah, beautiful drive from Lundgaard, biggest mover on the day, and for a guy that had no oval experience coming into this season, he sure is a quick learner.
Oh, there we go, podium celebration. And I think drivers might be requesting a little bit more of that spray on me right now. I can use that. And certainly the hydration can begin.
Yeah, unfortunately, those bottles aren't going to help with that. So not going to be able to enjoy the podium quite the same way as you normally do. But still very happy, obviously, to be up there.
And then start getting prepared for tomorrow. Gwen Stefani, noon local time, 1 o'clock Eastern time. Tim McGraw got us started today. Blake Shelton will finish up today, tomorrow, and then the Hy-Vee Salute to Farmers 300 coming up tomorrow on NBC, 3 o'clock Eastern time, 3:30 green flag. It's been a lot of fun today, so we'll try again tomorrow. For James Hinchcliffe, Townsend Bell, Dylan Welch, Dave Burns, and Nate Ryan, I'm Kevin Lee. Joseph Newgarden wins race 1 of the Hy-Vee IndyCar weekend. Thanks for watching on Peacock.